So recently, I had a question from a customer asking how could they record a custom part number into each press cycle on the Festo Servo press. Let's say that they have different part numbers flowing through a conveyor, and then they scan each part number. They acquire a string of characters with from that part number or from that part, and then they want to store that string of characters along with that press cycle, right? So there's a logging functionality on the servo press. So they wanted to store that as well. So the approach for this that I'm suggesting in this case, it's going to be by using the variables, and I'll show you how to do that. So first of all, let me go back to, in this case, I'm going to be testing this with CODESYS. And before we jump into CODESYS, I want to explain what I'm doing here. So on the servo press, there is a file. For the servo press, there is a file. Let me see, page number 9. So there is a file that's called YJKP object directory, right? So on this file, you can see all of the different objects that are available for reading, writing, or reading only. And in this case, there are some objects called variables, and there are 100 of these, right? So you can see here variable 1 to 10, and then there's an index and sub-index that you can use to read or write. In this case, this is read or write, right? Of course, there are some other ones that are only read, like read only in this case, but variables are read and write. So we're going to be using the variables. Actually, I'm just going to use 3 to show the concept, but you can use as many as you want, up to 100. So let me show you how I'm suggesting we approach this problem. So let's say that what the customer wants to do is they want to read this code. Let's say they scan the code and it's a 3-character code. And in this case, I'm going to do 3 different ones. So the first one is going to be SA1. So it will look something like this, right? SA1. So that would be the first one. And then the second one would be SB2 and then SC3. And I just created 3 different ones to show that there's actually a change in the program. But yeah, I mean, this can be product 1, 2, 3, and so on, right? Different strings up to 100 characters, because we're going to be using the variables for this in this case. So for example, on the first one, SA1, I'm going to be using 3 variables, 1 for each character, right? And since the variables are represented in the servo press as floating or reals, if you read the manual, you'll see, actually, let me bring that document back here. So it says that it is multiplied by 100. So you'll see 0.001. So if I go to my ASCII table and I want to set an S, so I look at my ASCII table here and I say, okay, what's the value of an S? So I look for the S and then I say, okay, here's the S right here. And the decimal value for that is 83, right? But the way that the variables work is by multiplying by 100. So now I know that I have to multiply that value by 100, so it gives me 8,300 or 8,300. It's the same thing for A and 1 in this first pass, and same thing for this, and same thing for this. So the next level that I have here is when I'm doing this on the program, I'm actually going to have to split the bytes. So what I did here is I basically split this value 8,300. I split it into 4 bytes, and then I'm going to be writing each byte independently. So that you can see, the reason why I'm doing that is because each variable, in this case, each variable is going to be taking 4 bytes, right? So now I'm going to be using 2 of those bytes for each character. All right, hopefully this is not too confusing, but this is basically the way that I'm suggesting that we approach this problem in this case. So now if we jump into CODESYS, how are we going to do this? So the first thing that I'm going to show you here is, of course, I have my function blocks for connect, another one for read-write object. I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining those because that's not the main focus of this video, but in case that you don't know which ones they are, which ones those are, you'll see them on this kind of documentation, right? Description of host function blocks in CODESYS, and you see FB connect, and then if you scroll down, you'll see the other one, FB read-write object. So you can read the different variables there. Okay, so now the first thing that I'm going to do, just to show the concept of reading and writing the variables, is show you the manual process. So in this case, let me pull up my object here, my object directory. In this case, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to connect, and I'm going to connect in acyclic mode because I'm going to transfer some variables. Oh, this is in stop right now, so I gotta run my PLC. And now, oops, let me make this. Okay, so now I enabled that block and it's running in acyclic mode. So now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, and I'm going to open that function block for read and write object, right? And the first thing that I want to do is I want to read, for example, I want to read the variable, all of the variables from 1 to 10. So this is an index number 2300 hex. So what is 2300 hex? We open the calculator and then we type in 2300 hex, and that gives me a decimal 8960. So I type in on the index. Why on the index? Because it explains here, this is the index for this, right? So what was the number? 8960. So I type in 8960 on the index, and then the sub-index, I don't have to worry about that now because this is set to 0 for the variables 1 to 10. So variables 1 to 10, I can leave that to 0. What is the data type for that object? The data type is unsigned double integer. So we go in here, and then I can double click in here and type in, click on that one. There is a numerical value for that. You can look that on the documentation. What else do I need to do? Because I'm reading, I don't have to specify anything else. I'm missing this one. I'm going to be reading multiple values because this has 1 to 10 variables, right? So variables 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So I selected multi there, and then I'm going to write or force those. So debug and then Control F7. From now on, I'm going to be using the shortcuts, just so you know. So Control F7, and I write that, and then I read, and I should be able, this done bit should be true. Or if I don't have any errors, and if there is an error, this is going to be true, this X error. So let's try it. Right, and then I get it done. I think that as of now, I don't have any values. Oh, actually, I do have, because I was doing some tests. But so right now, I do have some values here. But let's say that we wanted to read another one, which we know it's empty. Let's say variables 90, actually 11 to 20, for example, which would be the next number, 2301 in hex. So 2301. So 8961, Control F7, and then make this true. And you see, this is empty, right? The first value here, 44, this is explained here. This is the default value. But anyways, so this is empty because I'm reading now variables 11 to 20. This was just to show you that it is reading. So I'm going to bring it back to 8960, which is the 2300 hex, right? So make this false and then read again. Okay, perfect. So now you know how to read using these variables, right? Now how to write. If you wanted to write, the only thing that you change here is you change this to write. We are still writing multiple objects. We're still writing to the same index and the same sub-index, the same data type, But now I have to specify the length of the data that I'm going to be writing. And the length of the data is 44. So now I can type in 44, force it, or not force it, but write those values. And then here I have to specify which data I'm going to be writing, right? So if you noticed, the data that I'm reading starts from bytes 5 for the first variable. So that's what I'm going to do here. And actually, let me do that again so you see the difference. Read, and then here you see the data starts from byte 5, 108 right there. So I'm just going to change these two just so you know. I'm going to set it to 1 and 2 just so you see the difference there. So false, change these to right, and then what was I going to do? Oh, this. I was going to set it to 1 and this one to 2, right? Force those and then right. Right, yeah. Now, if I want to make sure that this was written, I can go down here and you'll see that this done bit is true. If there was an error, I will get this set to true. It might be possible that you get an error if you didn't specify the correct information here. For example, when I was testing, sometimes I forgot to specify the length, then I will get this error, right? So right now it is done. Let's take a look at the data that we wrote by looking at this array of data here. And now let's switch this back to read and then make that true. Oops, let's see, false and true. Oh, what happened here? Let's see, did I? No, yeah, I think I wrote it to the wrong. I think I wrote this to the read instead of the write. So let's do this again. 1 and 2, and I gotta make sure that this is data to be written, okay? So, and then switch this to write, and then right, and then I see 1 and 2, I see the done bit here, okay, so that's good. I can now make this false, change this to read, and open this one so I can see what's going on, and then make this true. So now you see the difference here, and all of the other things were deleted because everything was set to 0 when I wrote, right? So now you see that I'm reading and writing to an object. All right, perfect. The reason why I wanted to show you that is because I created a sequence that does this automatically, and I do this 3 times, right? So I have this program here, and I'm going to try to explain it really quickly. So basically what I do is I force this bit to write. I go into this case statement, and then I switch my communication mode to acyclic. I check that there is connection. I check that the actual communication mode is acyclic. After doing that, then I do exactly what I just showed you manually. I do it here. So I set the read, or actually I set it to write, which is 1, multi-objects. I set which index, which, not sub-index because there's none that I'm using in this case, but I set the data type and then the data length to be written. And then what I do is because I want to see a change in data, I have this other case statement here just to run 3 different cycles. So during the first cycle, I'm going to write this value, so an S, by writing an 8300, right? So I write an S, an A, and a 1. If I go back to the first the Excel file that I showed you at the beginning, those are the values that I wanted to write first, S, A, and 1. So let me hide this. So here's my S, here's the A, and here's the 1. And that's how I do it. I just split these values into 2 bytes, and I do this 3 times, right? Then after I'm done with that, I have another counter just to make sure that I reset these 3 times, and I start again. And that's about it. I mean, it really just takes 3 different steps to write. Then after doing this writing, after I'm done with the writing, I also, what I do is I start a read sequence. So on the read sequence, I jump into this other case statement. And what I'm doing here is I'm basically doing, most of this is exactly the same as the write above. So this one on above, but the main difference here is I changed this. So I set this to 0, which is reading, and I leave all of this is the same actually. So I leave all of that. I set this to read, and then I execute the function block, the read and write object, and then the only thing that I'm doing is I'm doing everything backwards. So now I'm unpacking the actually I'm packing the bytes. I'm packing them back into a word, and then I convert that word into an ASCII value. Um, so that ASCII value gives me the S, the A, and the 1. And then what I do is I use this concat function to just join the SA1, just for me to read easily, right? So I'm going to show you this, how I do this here. And again, this is just the sequence in a nutshell. So how do I do it is I just toggle this bit here. So make this true, and then you'll see the S char string here. So make that true, SA1. So that's my first string. And then the second one should be SB2. So let's execute this again. SB2, SC3, and then it goes back to SA1. All right, perfect. So it seems like that is working. Now I'm going to leave it as SA1 for now, because the next step that I want to show you is I want to actually run a sequence on a servo press that I have here with me, and I want to show you something. So let me going to open a file. Just give me 1 second. So I have this folder. Where I'm logging the results. So I'm going to delete this one, which was a previous test, and I'm going to leave that folder empty, right? So there's my folder, and it is empty. I'm going to put in another screen that I have here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to now switch my press to cyclic mode. How do I do this? That I go to my function block connect, and I change this to cyclic, right? Cyclic, and then I write that value. So now it's running on cyclic, and then you can see there some values changing, so that's good. Okay, so now this is running on cyclic. How do I know it is running on cyclic? Because now I can go into one of these function blocks, for example, status, and now I can enable this function block status. And now I see some information, for example, actual force, actual velocity, it stands still, so it's not moving, and the actual position. So, okay, that's good. I have some communication. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this. Going to log into the Servo Press web visualization, because here I'm going to enable via the PLC, I'm going to enable this FTP server, okay? So I cannot do it from here because right now I have the control with my PLC, but once I toggle a bit, you'll see it here, you'll see that that's going to change. So right now, again, right now this is disabled. You can see this red, so it is not running. What I'm going to do is you can enable that via the PLC by using this function block system settings. So I'm going to enable that function block. And then there's a bit here that's called log FTP server. So I'm going to make that true. Once I make that true, I'm going to bring this back. This is enabled now. Okay. So I can leave that to true. Now I'm going to go to my press control, and I'm going to enable this block. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the system. So now it's telling me here the system is enabled. Actually, let me disable it so you can see the switch there. Right now it's disabled right here. I'm going to enable it again. So now the system is enabled. I'm going to home just so you can see the transition. Okay, so right now my system is homing. I can see it moving, and it stands still again. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this program right now by clicking on Start Press Process. So I'm going to make this true. Actually, let me see what is going on here. is this program loaded? Let me load this program. Okay, program number 1 is loaded, and then start press process. No, it would not go. Let me see, what else am I missing here? I have to make these files. I have these files. Okay, start press process. No. Let me test this a little. Okay, yeah, I did find my problem. The problem was that I was still in here and on this screen, and it doesn't allow you to execute a program because it thinks that you're still changing something here in the configuration. So I'm going to exit this and go back to program or operation. It doesn't matter, as long as I'm not in any of the commissioning um, pages. So, okay, back there. And where was I? Oh yeah, I was going to start the, oops, I was going to start the press process. So I'm going to do that. Let's see. So now the press is going, and you'll see here, actually down here, it's moving, right? Actual force, you see some changes there. And I actually see the servo press moving here. So that's good. It did something. Not only it did something, it also generated a file in my computer. So it transferred an FTP file, or sorry, it transferred a file, a log file via FTP. What's in this file? I'm going to open it so you can see. This file includes a lot of different information from that press process that you made. So if the press process was okay, which program you were running, and so on, right? But right now we're not going to focus on all of these different things. One of the things that we want to focus on is these variables. So let's take a look. Variables, it says 0, 0. So everything is set to 0 right now. Let's see what happened here. I'm going to disable this for now. And actually, yeah, I'm going to disable that for now. And I'm going to go back to my FB Connect. I'm going to switch to acyclic. And I'm going to read to see what do I have there. So it says right now that everything is empty. So let's execute my program to write. Let's see. Where is my counter? I'm going to set this to 0, so we start fresh. Start write. So right now it wrote SA1. Let's see if that is true. So if I maybe read, so read. Okay, so it did write SA1. So let's do this. Let's go back to FB Connect, switch this back to cyclic, and then go back to our program here. I think I have to reset this, set this back to log FTP server. So let me just make sure that it is logging. Yeah, it is logging. On the web visualization, I see the green indicator. So actually I can leave this enabled if I want. Press control, I'm going to enable the function block, and then I'm going to enable the system. It is already home, so I should be able to start this press process. Let's do that. So it is going. Let me open this file. So you'll see after it's done, it's going to show a new file here. There it is. So now this is my new file. I open this file, and let's look at the variables again. So look for the variables there. So now you see 83, 65, and 49. These three, 83, 65, and 49. This is just showing how I'm logging this. Of course, you can create your own sequence to decode this 83, 65, 49. But let's see. 83, if we go to our ASCII table, again, show 83, it's an S, 65 is the next number, A, and then a 1, which should be a 49 here, 49. So let's do another one, just the next cycle, so you can see again. I'm going to disable this, start press process, disable this. I can Actually, I can also go in here and disable that if I wanted to. I switch back to acyclic and I execute my program again to write SV1. So, sorry, SV2. So now SV2 should be written. So now I can go back and switch this to cyclic. And I have to, again, make this true. So this is also written again. So it's logging on my FTP server. I enable this. I enable the system. And let's execute that program again. It's exactly the same program. Let's open and see if we see a different. So this was the first one, right? 836549. There's my new file. I'm going to leave this one here so we can see, we can compare. So the one on the back is my old one, 83, 65, and 49. This one over here. Let's look at the new one. Let's look for the variables. Now this one says 83, 66, and 50. Again, I'm not going to go again through the little details, but if you look, 83, S, 65, actually I think I am going to go through the details. 66, where's the 66? B, and what's the next number? 50, which should be 2. Here's a 2. So that is a way of creating or playing with the variables to log any kind of string that you want up to 100 characters using the using the variables and the function on the servo press, and additionally logging this into for your own or for your own tracking purposes, right? I hope you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment or any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.